Hello, South Dakota. Jason Rounsberg, your Attorney General for 5 on Fridays. This week's topic is going to address the Law Enforcement Officers Standards and Training Commission. I thought I'd begin with the composition of the board. There are 11 members: the Attorney General, the Director of DCI, and the Special Agent in charge of the FBI. Then there are 8 appointed members: 1 from the Highway Patrol, 1 a duly elected, qualified, and acting sheriff, 1 person who is a duly appointed, qualified, and acting member of a municipal police department, 1 member who is an enrolled tribal member and certified law enforcement officer, 1 person who is a member of the State Bar of South Dakota, 1 member recommended by the Executive Director of the Board of Regents, 1 member recommended by the South Dakota Municipal League, and lastly 1 member from the South Dakota County Commissioners Association. How often does the board meet? The board meets no less than 4 times a year. Now, we just met on March 28, 2019, and so we have to meet at least 3 more times. In the past, they've met up to 6 or 7 times, but the answer is no less than 4 times a year. In an effort for transparency, accountability, and just education, at the last commission meeting, which was held on March 28, 2019, I made a motion, which was seconded and passed unanimously by the board, requiring all members to maintain their status on the board by taking a sexual harassment class. It will have to be done in every odd-numbered year, providing the certificate to the Secretary of the Board by December 31st. What happens at a commission meeting? First off, there's a roll call vote to make sure we have a quorum present. Next, we have a public comment period where anybody can come in and address the commission. And in fact, at our last meeting, someone did that. Next, there are grant applications. Law enforcement agencies across the state make requests for either educational opportunities, equipment, or training that they'd like to have, and they come before the board, and we have to make a determination based on the funds that we have available if we grant those requests. Next thing we address is reciprocity requests. So you have an officer that's from out of state and they'd like to work in South Dakota. They put in an application and they come before the board explaining why they should be licensed in South Dakota. Now, these can be very difficult decisions to make because we're only looking at them in paper, but sometimes you get input from their supervisors from their other states. But the board evaluates their entire record and makes a decision whether to grant them reciprocity or not. The next thing the board does is canine certification. An officer has been paired up with a dog. They've worked together extensively on narcotics investigations or maybe explosives. The board's obligation is to review their hours of training, how much experience they've had, and decide if they should be a certified team. Lastly, I'd like to talk to you about a few things that have been in the news. They've got a lot of attention about what this board does. This board looks at the certification of an individual officer. Should they continue to be a law enforcement officer? Do we trust them to be a law enforcement officer and to keep you safe? An allegation is made and sent to the Executive Secretary of the Board. The Executive Secretary takes a look at that allegation and decides, is an investigation warranted? If he believes that it is, he sends out to an agent. An agent then investigates the allegation. The agent brings back the facts that he's learned and provides those to the Executive Secretary, where the Executive Secretary then may file a complaint. The officer is notified and that he has a right to due process, a right to hearing before the commission. The next step of the process is a contested hearing. A hearing officer is appointed, and at that hearing, they make sure that everything is done fairly for both sides. An attorney is appointed to bring forward the allegations of the complaint and bring those before the board. The accused also has a number of rights. They have the right to remain silent. They have the right to an attorney. They have the right to present witnesses and evidence. So after both sides have presented their witnesses, made all the questioning of them that they'd like, and the hearing is concluded, they both have the right to a closing statement. The allegations then will be decided by the board if they warrant the continued certification of the officer or if the officer should be decertified. We want to make sure that we have strong, honest people working for you and your communities to keep you safe. So this board has a tremendous obligation, but we do not take our jobs lightly, and we want to do everything we can do to keep you safe. Well, thank you for tuning in once again to 5 on Fridays. I enjoy our talks, and hopefully you do as well. Hopefully they're educational and informative for you. There's a lot of information on our website about the Commission and a number of other topics. You can go learn about upcoming meetings. You can learn about the minutes and agenda from past meetings. And I hope that you will tune in next week for another episode of 5 on Friday.